The elevator doors opened on the 47th floor, and Noah Carter knew immediately something was wrong. The penthouse was supposed to be empty. Maintenance had told him so. But the lights were on, and through the half-open door he could hear someone breathing, uneven and sharp. He stepped inside, toolbox in hand, and froze. A woman stood by the window, her back to him, shoulders trembling. Before he could speak, she spun around, eyes wide, face pale. "Who sent you?" she demanded. 10 seconds later, security burst through the door, and Noah's quiet life shattered into 1,000 pieces. If you want to see how far this story reaches, drop a comment with your city below, hit that like button, and stay until the end. Noah Carter wasn't supposed to be anyone important. At 32, he'd built a life out of invisibility. He showed up on time, fixed what was broken, and left before anyone could ask his name. He wore dark blue uniforms with his first name stitched over the pocket, carried a dented toolbox older than his daughter, and moved through the Arcadia Tower like a shadow, present but unnoticed. That was exactly how he wanted it. He'd learned early that being invisible kept you safe. It kept child services from asking too many questions about whether a single father working 60-hour weeks could really manage alone. It kept his ex-wife's lawyer from sniffing around for reasons to challenge custody. It kept his daughter, Lily, from becoming collateral damage in a world that didn't forgive mistakes. So Noah kept his head down. He smiled politely when building residents passed him in the halls. He nodded at security guards whose names he never learned. He fixed air conditioners, reset circuit breakers, replaced faulty outlets, and asked no questions. Until the night he walked into Elena Voss's penthouse. It started with a work order that didn't make sense. "Carter, you're up," his supervisor, Greg, had said that Thursday evening, shoving a clipboard toward him. 47th floor, penthouse suite, electrical issue. Noah glanced at the paper. The request had come in less than an hour ago, marked urgent. No details. No tenant name. Just a unit number and a note. After hours. Discreet entry required. "Discreet?" Noah asked. Greg shrugged. "Rich people don't like workers hanging around during dinner parties. Just get in, fix it, get out. Don't touch anything expensive." Noah didn't argue. He grabbed his toolbox and headed for the service elevator, the one that smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals and carried him up through the building's steel veins. He'd been to the 47th floor only once before, months ago, to replace a thermostat in an empty unit. The penthouse level was different from the rest of Arcadia Tower. Quieter, cleaner, insulated from the noise of the city below. The elevator chimed softly as it reached the top. The door slid open onto a narrow hallway with only 2 doors, both unmarked. Noah checked the work order again. Unit 4701. He knocked twice. No answer. He tried the handle. Unlocked. That should have been his first warning. The door opened into a space that didn't belong in the same universe as Noah's cramped 2-bedroom apartment across town. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched along the far wall, framing the city skyline in crisp, glittering detail. The floors were polished marble. The furniture looked like it had been carved from single pieces of expensive wood. Everything was pristine, untouched, perfect, except for the woman standing by the window. She had her back to him, one hand braced against the glass. Her shoulders rose and fell unevenly, like she was trying to control her breathing and failing. She wore a charcoal blazer and slim black pants, the kind of outfit that cost more than Noah's monthly rent. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, but a few strands had come loose, curling against her neck. Noah hesitated in the doorway. Ma'am? I'm here about the electrical issue." She flinched. Not a small startle, a full-body jolt, like someone had fired a gun. She spun around and Noah saw her face for the first time. She was young, late 20s, maybe 30. Sharp cheekbones, pale skin, eyes that were too wide and too dark. Beautiful in the kind of way that made people nervous, like staring at something breakable and priceless at the same time. And she was terrified. "Who sent you?" Her voice was low, controlled, but there was something jagged underneath it. "Maintenance?" Noah said carefully. He held up his toolbox like a peace offering. "Greg Hansen, I got a work order for—" "I didn't call maintenance." Noah blinked. "You didn't?" "No." They stared at each other. Noah's brain started throwing up warning signals, the kind that had kept him alive through a childhood spent in neighborhoods where you learned to read a room fast or paid for it later. "Okay," he said slowly. "Maybe there was a mix-up. I'll head back down and..." The door behind him slammed open. 3 men in black suits poured into the penthouse, moving with the kind of synchronized precision that said security louder than any badge. The one in front was broad-shouldered and sharp-eyed, his hand already reaching for something clipped to his belt. "Step away from Ms. Voss," he barked. Noah raised both hands instinctively. "Whoa, hang on. I said step away." "Said, I'm maintenance," Noah said, louder now. "I got a work order. I knocked. The door was unlocked. I didn't—" "Bullshit." The lead guard moved closer, and Noah saw the earpiece coiled against his jaw, the telltale bulge of a holster under his jacket. "This floor's been flagged all week. No maintenance requests. No authorized entry." Noah's stomach dropped. "That's not—" "There was a work order. Greg sent me up here. Call him." "We will." The guard gestured sharply. "Hands behind your head. Now. Wait." The woman, Ms. Voss, stepped forward. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. "Wait." The guard paused. "Ma'am, we need to secure the—" "I know what you need to do, Marcus." Her tone was colder now, steadier. She looked at Noah, and he couldn't read her expression at all. "What's your name?" "Noah Carter." "How long have you worked here, Mr. Carter?" 3 years? And you've never been up here before?" "Once. Different unit, months ago." She studied him for a long moment. Noah kept his hands up, his toolbox dangling from one hand, and tried to look as non-threatening as a 6-foot man holding a metal box could look. Finally, she turned to the guard. "Let him go." Marcus didn't move. "Ms. Voss, protocol says—" "I don't care what protocol says. He's not a threat." "We don't know that." "I do." She met Noah's eyes again, and something flickered in her expression, something tired and sad and far older than her face. "He knocked. If he'd wanted to hurt me, he wouldn't have knocked." The silence stretched thin. Then Marcus sighed and stepped back. "Fine, but he's not leaving until we verify his story." He jabbed a finger at Noah. "You sit." Noah sat on the nearest chair, a sleek leather thing that probably cost more than his car. He set his toolbox down carefully and kept his hands visible. The other 2 guards took up positions by the door and the window, blocking every exit. Ms. Voss sat across from him, her posture perfect, her hands folded in her lap. Up close, Noah could see the faint shadows under her eyes, the tightness around her mouth. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. "I'm sorry," Noah said quietly. She blinked. "For what?" "Scaring you." Something shifted in her expression, not softening exactly, but something. "You didn't." "You sure about that?" She almost smiled, almost. "I'm sure." Marcus was on the phone now, speaking in clipped professional tones. Noah caught fragments. "Maintenance supervisor. Work order. 4th floor security desk." "They're going to figure out pretty fast that I'm telling the truth," Noah said. "I know." "So what happens then?" "Then you go home." She paused. "Unless you don't want to." Noah frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Before she could answer, Marcus turned back to them, his face grim. "We've got a problem." Ms. Voss stood. "What kind of problem?" "Greg Hansen confirms he sent Carter up here. Says he got the work order through the internal system about 90 minutes ago." Marcus's jaw tightened. "But there's no record of it. No request logged. No tenant complaint. Nothing." Noah felt the floor tilt under him. "That's impossible. I saw the paperwork." "Where is it?" Noah reached for his pocket, then froze. The clipboard. He'd left it on Greg's desk. I don't have it." Marcus's expression said everything. Ms. Voss held up a hand. "So someone sent a fake work order." "Looks like it." "Why?" "That's what we're going to find out." Marcus looked at Noah, and there was no warmth in his eyes now. "You're coming with us." "Wait." Ms. Voss stepped between them. "He didn't do anything wrong." "We don't know that." "Yes, we do. Someone set this up. Someone wanted him here." She turned to Noah. "Do you have any idea who?" Noah shook his head, his mind racing. A fake work order meant someone had accessed the internal system. Someone who knew how to bypass security protocols. Someone who wanted him on this floor in this penthouse at this exact time. Someone who wanted him to look guilty. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "I'm Nobody. I fix things. Why would anyone? Because you were convenient, Ms. Voss said quietly. You had access. You followed orders. You showed up. Her eyes locked on his. And now you're the perfect scapegoat. The room went very still. Ms. Voss, Marcus said slowly, if you're suggesting— I'm not suggesting anything, I'm stating a fact. She didn't look away from Noah. Someone wanted to make it look like security was breached. Someone wanted to create doubt. And they used him to do it. Noah's throat felt tight. Who? I don't know yet. She turned to Marcus. But we're going to find out. And until we do, Mr. Carter stays on the approved list. Marcus stared at her. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Someone just tried to frame an innocent man to get to me. I want to know why. And I want to know who. Her voice dropped, cold and final. So we're going to keep him close, where we can see him, where they can see him. That's insane. That's strategy. Noah stood up slowly. Hang on. I didn't agree to— You don't have to agree, Ms. Voss said. You can walk out right now. Go home. Forget this happened. She paused. But they won't forget. Whoever did this, they'll tie you to it anyway. You'll lose your job. Possibly worse. Or— Noah's voice was rough. Or you help me figure out who's behind this, and I make sure your name stays clean. It wasn't a request, it was a deal, and they both knew it. And Noah looked at her, really looked at her, saw the exhaustion carved into her features, the rigid control holding her together, the fear she was trying so hard to bury. She was powerful, that much was obvious, but she was also alone, and someone was hunting her. He thought about Lily, asleep in her bed across town, about the custody hearing next month, about the fragile, painstaking life he'd built out of nothing. And he thought about what would happen if he walked away now and let someone else write the story. Okay, he said, I'm in. Ms. Voss nodded once. Good. Marcus, arrange a security clearance for Mr. Carter. Full building access. I want him available if we need him. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He just pulled out his phone and started making calls. Noah picked up his toolbox. His hands were steady, but his heart was hammering. You mind telling me what I just signed up for? Ms. Voss walked to the window and stared out at the city, her reflection ghostly in the glass. A war, she said quietly. Whether you knew it or not. On. Over the next 3 days, Noah's life turned inside out. The building's HR department processed his temporary reassignment with suspicious efficiency. One morning, he was a maintenance tech. By afternoon, he had a new ID badge, a company email, and a desk on the 45th floor. His official title was Facilities Liaison, a meaningless phrase that apparently meant he answered directly to Elena Voss. Greg had looked at him like he'd grown a second head. What the hell did you do up there? He'd asked. Fixed a problem, Noah had said. He didn't mention that the problem wasn't electrical. Elena Voss ran a company called Meridian Solutions, a tech firm that did something complicated involving data security and corporate infrastructure. Noah didn't understand most of it. What he did understand was that Elena had built the company from nothing, that she was the youngest CEO in the industry, and that a lot of people wanted to see her fail. The office was sleek and modern, all glass walls and open spaces. Noah hated it immediately. Too exposed, too bright, too many people watching. But he showed up every morning, sat at his assigned desk, and waited for instructions that never came. Elena was always in meetings, always moving, always surrounded by assistants and lawyers and executives who looked at Noah like he was a stain on the carpet. He didn't care. He was good at being invisible. What he wasn't good at was lying to his daughter. Why are you wearing a tie? Lily had asked that first morning, staring at him over her cereal. Noah tugged at the unfamiliar knot around his neck. New job. You hate ties. I know. So why are you wearing one? Because a woman I barely know is caught in something dangerous, and I'm the only person she trusts right now, and if I screw this up, we both lose everything. Because sometimes you do things you don't like, Noah said instead, to protect the things you do. Lily wrinkled her nose. That's a grown-up answer. You're a grown-up question kind of kid. She grinned and Noah's chest ached. She looked so much like her mother, same dark curls, same bright eyes, But she had his stubbornness, his quiet watchfulness. She noticed everything. "Is it a better job?" she asked. "Maybe." "Does it pay more?" Noah hesitated. They hadn't discussed salary yet. "I hope so." "Good. Then you can get me a turtle." "We talked about this. Turtles are awesome, and Mrs. Chen's class has one. And if I had one, I'd take care of it forever and ever." Noah ruffled her hair. "We'll see." "That means no." "That means we'll see." She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. And for a moment, Noah let himself believe that everything was going to be okay. On the fourth day, Elena called him into her office. It was the first time they'd spoken since the penthouse. Noah stepped inside, and the door closed behind him with a soft, final click. Elena sat behind a massive desk, her hands folded, her expression unreadable. "Sit." Noah sat. "You've been patient," she said. "I've been confused." "Fair." She leaned back in her chair. "I'm going to be direct with you, Mr. Carter. I don't trust easily. I don't take risks unless I have to, and I don't bring strangers into my inner circle." "Then why am I here?" "Because you're not a stranger anymore, and because you did something most people wouldn't." "I didn't do anything." "Exactly." Her eyes locked on his. "You walked into a situation you didn't understand, and instead of running, you stayed. You listened. You didn't try to fix me or save me or convince me I was wrong. You just stayed." Noah didn't know what to say to that. Elena stood and walked to the window. 3 months ago, someone tried to kill me." The words hit like a fist. "It looked like an accident," she continued. "Faulty wiring in my apartment. A fire that started in the middle of the night. I got out, barely." She turned to face him. "The investigators ruled it accidental, but I know it wasn't." Noah's mouth felt dry. "Who?" "I don't know. That's the problem. It could be a competitor, a disgruntled employee, a board member who wants me gone. Hell, it could be someone I've never even met." She crossed her arms. "But whoever it is, they're still out there, and they're getting bolder." The fake work order was a test to see if they could bypass security, to see if they could plant someone next to me without anyone noticing. She paused. "You were supposed to be the proof of concept." Noah felt cold. "And now? Now they know I'm on to them, which means they'll escalate." "So what do you need me for?" Elena smiled, sharp and humorless. "I need someone I can trust. Someone who doesn't have a reason to betray me. Someone who's too smart to be fooled and too stubborn to be scared off." She met his eyes. "I need you to help me find out who's trying to destroy me before they succeed." Noah stared at her. "You're asking me to be bait. I'm asking you to be my ally." "Same thing." "Maybe." She didn't flinch. "But you're already in this, Mr. Carter. The moment you walked into my penthouse, you became part of the story. The only question now is whether you're a victim or a player." Noah thought about Lily, about the custody hearing, about the life he'd fought so hard to build. And then he thought about the woman standing in front of him, brilliant, terrified, alone, and the cold, calculated cruelty of someone willing to burn her alive just to take what she'd built. "Okay," he said, "but I have conditions." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Such as?" "My daughter comes first, always. If this puts her at risk, I'm out." "Agreed." "And I want triple my current salary, backdated to the day I got reassigned." She almost laughed. "Done. And if we catch whoever's doing this, you owe me a favor. No questions asked." Elena studied him for a long moment. Then she held out her hand. "Deal." Noah shook it. Her grip was firm, her skin cool. And for the first time since the elevator doors had opened on the 47th floor, he felt like he'd made a choice instead of stumbling into one. "So," he said, "where do we start?" Elena pulled a folder from her desk and slid it across to him. "With the people who want me dead." Noah opened it. Inside were photographs, financial records, emails. Names he didn't recognize, faces that looked normal, unremarkable, dangerous. "Welcome to the war, Mr. Carter," Elena said softly. And Noah, toolbox traded for a necktie, invisibility traded for a target on his back, nodded. He was all in now. The folder felt heavier than it should have. Noah flipped through the pages slowly, his eyes scanning names and faces that meant nothing to him, but apparently meant everything to Elena. There were 8 people in total: board members, senior executives, a former business partner. Each profile included a photograph, a brief biography, and a list of grievances, real or imagined, against Elena Voss. "These are the ones with motive," Elena said, still standing by the window. "The ones who'd benefit most if I disappeared." Noah looked up. "Disappeared? Not just resigned." "I built Meridian from the ground up. The company's structure is designed around me. If I step down voluntarily, there are safeguards in place: succession protocols, equity distribution, non-compete clauses. But if I die, or if I'm forced out under scandal," she trailed off. "Then it's open season. So we're looking for someone who's willing to kill you instead of just outvoting you." "Correct." Noah turned back to the folder. The first face staring up at him belonged to a man in his 50s with silver hair and a politician's smile. "Richard Dane, CFO. Been with the company for 5 years. Says here he was passed over for CEO twice before you were hired." "He was passed over because he's a sociopath with a spending problem," Elena said flatly. "But he's good with numbers, so the board keeps him around." "You think he's capable of this?" "I think everyone's capable of this, given the right pressure." She paused. "Richard's got gambling debts, serious ones. If someone offered him enough money to clear them in exchange for helping them take control of Meridian, he'd consider it." Noah made a mental note and moved to the next profile. A woman, this time, younger, with sharp eyes and an ice-cold expression. "Veronica Lim, VP of Operations, former colleague from your last company." "We started together," Elena said quietly. "She was my mentor, taught me everything about the industry." "What happened?" "I got better." Elena's voice was neutral, but Noah heard the edge underneath. "When I left to start Meridian, she took it personally. Accused me of stealing her ideas, sued me actually, lost. But she's still here, still working, still waiting for me to fail. That's a hell of a grudge." "Veronica doesn't do anything halfway." Noah studied the photograph. Veronica Lim looked like someone who smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. Someone who kept score. "Okay. Who else?" They went through the rest of the list together. A tech genius with a god complex. A board member who'd tried to force a merger Elena didn't want. A former partner who'd been bought out and never forgiven her for it. By the time they reached the last profile, Noah's head was spinning. "How do you work with these people every day?" he asked. Elena shrugged. "I don't have a choice. Meridian needs them. Their expertise, their connections, their capital." She turned away from the window and sat down across from him. "Running a company isn't about surrounding yourself with people you like, Mr. Carter. It's about managing people you don't." "That sounds exhausting." "It is." They sat in silence for a moment. Noah closed the folder and set it on the desk. "So what's the plan? We can't just accuse all 8 of them and see who breaks." "No, but we can watch them. See who's nervous, who's making unusual moves." Elena leaned forward. "Whoever set up that fake work order had to access the building's internal systems. That leaves a digital trail. I've got people looking into it, but it's slow. Whoever did this covered their tracks well." "What about security footage?" "Already reviewed. Nothing useful. The request was submitted remotely, routed through a proxy server. Could have been done from anywhere." Noah frowned. "Then how do we—" The door opened without warning. A man strode in, tall and immaculately dressed, his expression a mixture of irritation and entitlement. Noah recognized him immediately from the folder. Richard Dane. "Elena, we need to talk," Dane said, not bothering to acknowledge Noah's existence. "The quarterly numbers are a disaster, and the board is asking questions I can't answer." Elena's face went blank, professional. "The numbers are fine, Richard." "Fine? We're down 8% from last quarter. Investors are getting nervous." "Investors are always nervous. That's why we pay you to manage them." Dane's jaw tightened. "This isn't a joke. If we don't show growth next quarter, we'll have a real problem." "Then I suggest you find a solution." Elena's tone was ice. "That is your job, isn't it?" Dane's eyes flicked to Noah for the first time, taking in the cheap tie and the uncomfortable posture. "Who's this?" "Noah Carter, Facilities Liaison." "Facilities?" Dane's expression twisted into something between amusement and disdain. "Since when do we bring maintenance into executive meetings?" Since I decided his input was valuable, Elena said smoothly. Is there anything else, Richard? Dane stared at her, and Noah saw something flicker in his eyes, something cold and calculating. No, but we're not done discussing this. I look forward to it. Dane left without another word, the door closing behind him with slightly too much force. Noah waited until the footsteps faded. That guy hates you. That guy hates everyone. Elena stood and walked back to her desk. But yes, he hates me more than most. He didn't even try to hide it. Richard doesn't believe in subtlety. If he wanted me dead, he'd hire someone to push me down an elevator shaft, not orchestrate an elaborate frame job. You sound pretty sure about that. I am. Richard's a brute. Effective, but predictable. She pulled out her phone and typed something quickly. The person we're looking for is smarter, patient, someone who understands how to manipulate systems and people. Noah thought about that. Someone like Veronica Lim? Elena paused, her fingers hovering over the screen. Maybe. You don't sound convinced. I'm not. Veronica's brilliant, but she's also proud. She'd want me to know it was her. She'd want credit. Elena set the phone down. This feels different, quieter. So we're looking for someone who doesn't need the spotlight. Exactly. Noah rubbed his temples. A week ago, his biggest problem had been a broken thermostat on the 19th floor. Now he was sitting in a corner office trying to figure out which corporate executive was secretly a murderer. This is insane. Yes, Elena agreed. It is. And you're sure you want me involved in this? She looked at him, and for the first time since they'd met, her expression softened slightly. I don't want you involved, Mr. Carter. I need you involved. There's a difference. Before Noah could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out and saw Lily's name on the screen. I need to take this. Elena nodded. Go ahead. Noah stepped into the hallway and answered. Hey, kiddo. What's up? Dad, Mrs. Patterson says I need permission to go on the field trip next week. Lily's voice was bright, excited. Can I go? Please? What field trip? The Science Museum. We're going to see the dinosaurs and the planetarium and everything. Noah smiled despite himself. Yeah, you can go. I'll sign the form tonight. You're the best. I know. Now get back to class before your teacher yells at me. She wouldn't yell at you. You're too nice. That's what you think. Love you, Lil. Love you too, Dad. He hung up and stood there for a moment, staring at the phone. The hallway was bright and sterile, full of people in expensive suits carrying tablets and talking about projections and market shares. None of them looked at him. He was invisible again, just another body in the machine. But he wasn't invisible to Lily, and he wasn't invisible to Elena. That had to count for something. When he walked back into the office, Elena was on her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She didn't look up. Everything okay? Yeah, my daughter, school stuff. How old is she? 8. Elena paused just for a second. That's a good age. You got kids? No. Her voice was flat. Never had time. Noah sat back down. For what it's worth, it's harder than it looks. I'm sure. She closed the laptop. I need you to do something for me. What? Tonight. There's a company event. Donors, investors, board members, everyone who's anyone will be there. She met his eyes. I want you to come. Noah blinked. Me? Yes. Why? Because I need someone watching who isn't part of the usual crowd. Someone who can see things the rest of us miss. She leaned back in her chair. You've spent 3 years being invisible in this building. You know how people act when they think no one's paying attention. I need that. You want me to spy on your own board. I want you to observe. Same thing. Elena smiled faintly. Maybe. Noah thought about it. He didn't own a suit. He didn't know how to navigate these kinds of events. He'd be completely out of his depth. But he'd also be exactly what Elena said. Invisible. Just another face in the crowd. Okay, he said, but you're buying me a tie that doesn't look like it came from a gas station. Deal. That night, Noah stood in front of his bathroom mirror wearing a suit he'd rented from a shop 3 blocks from his apartment. It fit reasonably well, though the shoulders were a little tight. The tie Elena had sent over, dark blue, silk, expensive, hung around his neck like a noose. "You look weird," Lily said from the doorway. Noah adjusted the knot. "Thanks. Where are you going?" "Work thing." "In a fancy suit?" "It's that kind of work thing." Lily climbed onto the closed toilet seat and watched him struggle with the tie. "You don't know how to do that, do you?" "Not even a little bit," she giggled. "Mom used to do it for you." Noah's hands stilled. They didn't talk about her mother much. The divorce had been ugly, and Lily had been too young to understand most of it. But she remembered pieces, small things, the way her mother used to braid her hair, the sound of her laugh, the fights that came later, loud and sharp and impossible to forget. "Yeah," Noah said quietly. "She did." Lily hopped down and patted over to him. "Here, I saw it on YouTube." "You watch tie tutorials on YouTube?" "I watch everything on YouTube." Between the two of them, they managed to get the tie into something resembling professional. Noah looked at himself in the mirror. He looked like someone pretending to be someone else, which he supposed was exactly what he was. "You look handsome," Lily said. "You're biased." "No, I'm right." She hugged him around the waist. "Be careful, okay?" Noah's chest tightened. "Always am." "I mean it, Dad. You've been weird lately." "Weird how?" "I don't know. Just different." She looked up at him, her eyes serious. "Is everything okay?" Noah crouched down so they were eye level. "Everything's fine, kiddo. I promise. Just work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about." "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" He kissed her forehead. "Always." It was a lie, and they both probably knew it. But it was the kind of lie parents told to keep their kids from carrying weight they shouldn't have to carry. The babysitter arrived 15 minutes later, a college student named Maya, who lived in the building and had been watching Lily since she was 5. Noah gave her the usual instructions, kissed Lily goodnight, and headed out into the cold. The event was being held at the Carlisle Hotel, a gleaming tower of glass and marble in the financial district. Noah had walked past it 100 times, but never been inside. The lobby alone was bigger than his entire apartment, full of chandeliers and polished stone and people who looked like they belonged in magazines. He gave his name at the desk, and a woman in a sleek black dress checked her tablet. "Mr. Carter, you're on Miss Voss's guest list, 10th floor." The elevator ride up was silent except for the soft jazz piping through hidden speakers. Noah tugged at his collar and tried not to think about how much this tie probably cost. The 10th floor opened into a ballroom that took his breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the light stretching out like a field of stars. The room was filled with people in tuxedos and evening gowns, holding champagne flutes and talking in low, cultured voices. Waiters moved through the crowd carrying trays of food that looked more like art than anything edible. Noah felt like he'd walked onto a movie set. "Mr. Carter." He turned and saw Elena approaching. She wore a black dress that was simple and devastating at the same time, her hair down for once, curling softly around her shoulders. She looked different, softer, almost fragile. "Ms. Voss," he said. "Elena," she corrected. "We're off the clock." "Are we?" She smiled slightly. "No, but pretend anyway." She handed him a glass of champagne. "Try to look like you belong." "That's going to be hard." "I know, but do your best." She glanced around the room. "Most of the board is here. Richard's by the bar, already on his 3rd scotch. Veronica's in the corner holding court with the tech investors. The others are scattered." Noah followed her gaze. "What am I looking for?" "Anything unusual. Conversations that stop when you get close. People who seem nervous. Anyone paying too much attention to me." "Everyone's paying attention to you." Elena's expression tightened. "Then look for the ones who are trying not to." She drifted away, moving into the crowd with practiced ease. Noah watched her go, then started his own slow circuit of the room. He kept to the edges, nursing his champagne and doing his best impression of someone who had any idea what he was doing. The conversations around him were a blur of jargon and insider references. Mergers, acquisitions, quarterly projections, stock prices. None of it meant anything to Noah, but he listened anyway, filing away names and fragments. He was halfway through his second lap when he spotted Richard Dane. The CFO was exactly where Elena had said he'd be, leaning against the bar, drink in hand, talking to a man Noah didn't recognize. Dane's face was flushed, his tie loosened. He looked angry, Noah edged closer, pretending to examine a painting on the wall. Telling you she's going to tank the whole company, Dane was saying. She's reckless, impulsive. She doesn't listen to anyone. Then why don't you do something about it? The other man asked. Like what? The board won't move against her. She's got them all convinced she's some kind of genius. Maybe she is, Dane snorted. She's lucky. There's a difference. Noah kept his expression neutral and moved on. It wasn't proof of anything, just a drunk executive venting. But it was a data point. He filed it away. He was near the windows when he saw Veronica Lim. She stood alone, her champagne untouched, her eyes fixed on Elena across the room. There was something in her expression that made Noah's skin crawl. Not anger, exactly. Something colder, more patient. He started toward her, but before he could get close, someone stepped into his path. "You're the new guy." Noah looked down. The speaker was a man in his 30s, shorter than Noah, with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His name tag read, Marcus Trent, VP of Strategic Development. "That's me," Noah said. "Facilities liaison." Marcus said the words like they tasted funny. "That's a new one." "It's a new position. I'll bet." Marcus took a sip of his drink. "So, what do you actually do?" "Whatever Ms. Voss needs." "That's vague." "That's the job." Marcus studied him, and Noah felt like he was being weighed and measured. "You know, I've been with this company for 7 years. Worked my way up from junior analyst, and I've never seen Elena bring someone into her inner circle this fast. Maybe I'm just that good. Or maybe you're just that convenient." Marcus leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. "Word of advice, friend. Be careful. Elena Voss burns through people, uses them up and throws them away. Don't get too comfortable." "I'll keep that in mind." Marcus smiled, cold and sharp. "You do that." He walked away and Noah stood there, his pulse kicking up a notch. That hadn't been a warning. It had been a threat. He turned and found Elena watching him from across the room. Their eyes met, and she raised an eyebrow. Noah gave a small nod. Message received. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Noah made small talk with people whose names he forgot immediately. He avoided the waiters carrying food he couldn't pronounce. He watched Richard Dane get progressively drunker and Veronica Lim get progressively colder. And he watched Elena. She moved through the room like she was born to it, shaking hands and smiling and saying all the right things. But Noah could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes kept scanning the crowd. She was performing, and she was exhausted. By 11, the crowd had started to thin. Noah found Elena standing by the windows, staring out at the city. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine." "You're a terrible liar." She glanced at him, and for a moment her mask slipped. "I hate these things." "Then why do them?" "Because if I don't, they'll think I'm weak, or scared, or incompetent." She turned back to the window. "Perception is everything in this world, Mr. Carter. If they think you're vulnerable, they'll tear you apart." "You're not vulnerable." "Aren't I?" Her voice was soft. "Someone tried to kill me. Someone in this room, maybe. And I'm standing here smiling and pretending everything's fine because that's what's expected." Noah didn't know what to say to that. Elena took a breath and straightened her shoulders. "Did you see anything useful?" "Maybe. Richard's drunk and bitter. Marcus Trent warned me to stay away from you. Veronica spent half the night staring at you like you owed her money." "Sounds about right." "This is your life?" "Every day." Noah shook his head. "I don't know how you do it." "Neither do I, sometimes." She finished her champagne and set the glass on a nearby table. "Come on, let's get out of here." They took the elevator down in silence. The lobby was quiet now, just a few staff members cleaning up. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy, cabs honking, people laughing, the distant wail of a siren. Elena's car was waiting at the curb, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows. The driver opened the door, and she paused before getting in. "Thank you," she said. "For tonight." "I didn't do anything." "You were there. That's more than most people would do." She hesitated, then added, "I meant what I said earlier. I need you, Mr. Carter. Not because you're convenient, because you're honest, and that's rare." Noah didn't know how to respond to that, so he just nodded. Elena slid into the car, and the driver closed the door. Noah watched the taillights disappear into traffic, then turned and started the long walk to the subway. His phone buzzed, a text from Elena. Tomorrow. My office. 9 a.m. We have work to do. Noah typed back a quick acknowledgement and shoved the phone in his pocket. He was halfway home when he realized someone was following him. Noah didn't turn around. That was the first rule he'd learned growing up in neighborhoods where looking scared got you hurt. He kept walking, his pace steady, his hands loose at his sides. The subway station was 3 blocks ahead, its entrance glowing yellow in the dark. The footsteps behind him matched his rhythm exactly. Noah's heart rate kicked up, but his breathing stayed even. Could be nothing. Could be someone heading the same direction. Could be paranoia from spending the last week swimming in corporate conspiracy theories. He turned left at the next corner, cutting down a side street he didn't need to take. The footsteps followed. Okay, not paranoia. Noah's mind raced. He wasn't armed, hadn't been in a real fight since high school. His phone was in his pocket, but calling the cops would take time he might not have. He scanned the street ahead, closed storefronts, a few parked cars, a narrow alley about 20 yards up. He picked up his pace slightly. Not running, just walking like someone who had somewhere to be. The footsteps sped up to match. Noah reached the alley and made a split-second decision. Instead of passing it, he ducked inside, flattening himself against the wall just out of sight. His pulse hammered in his ears. He counted to 3, then peered back around the corner. A figure stood under the streetlight, head turning left and right. Average height, dark jacket, face obscured by a hood. The figure hesitated, then started toward the alley. Noah stepped out before he could second-guess himself. You following me? The figure stopped. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then the hood came down, and Noah saw a woman's face. Young, maybe mid-20s, with short dark hair and sharp, nervous eyes. Not someone he recognized. Relax, she said, her voice tight. I'm not here to hurt you. That's exactly what someone here to hurt me would say. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead already. She glanced over her shoulder, then back at him. I need to talk to you about Elena Voss. Noah's stomach dropped. Who are you? My name's Amy Chen. I used to work for Meridian. Security analysis. She took a step closer and Noah saw the exhaustion carved into her face. I was fired 3 weeks ago. Officially for violating company policy. Unofficially for asking too many questions. What kind of questions? The kind that get buildings burned down. Amy's eyes locked on his. Someone's been manipulating Meridian's systems for months. Financial records, security protocols, internal communications. I caught the trail and reported it. 2 days later, I was escorted out by armed guards and threatened with legal action if I ever talked about what I found. Noah's throat felt dry. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw you at the event tonight, with Elena, and I saw the way people looked at you. Amy's voice dropped. You're being set up, Mr. Carter, just like I was. And if you don't get out now, they're going to destroy you too. Who's they? I don't know. That's the problem. Whoever's doing this, they're careful. They cover their tracks, but they're inside the company, high up, and they're getting ready to make a move. Noah stared at her. Every instinct told him to walk away. This could be a trap, a test, another layer of the game he'd stumbled into. But Amy Chen's fear looked real, and the pieces she was describing fit too well with everything else he'd seen. What do you want from me? He asked. Nothing. I just wanted to warn you, because no one warned me. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen a few times, then held it out. This is my number. If you need help or if something happens, call me. I'll do what I can. Noah took the phone and saved the number. Why do you care? Because Elena doesn't deserve what's coming. She's not perfect, but she's honest. That's more than I can say for most of them. Amy backed toward the street. Be careful, Mr. Carter. Trust no one, not even the people who seem like they're on your side. Wait, but she was already gone, disappearing into the shadows like she'd never been there at all. Noah stood alone in the alley, his mind spinning. After a long moment, he pulled out his phone and called Elena. She answered on the second ring. Mr. Carter, it's late. I know, something happened. He told her about Amy Chen, about the warning, about the manipulation of Meridian systems. Elena was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold and controlled. Where are you? About 6 blocks from the subway. Stay there. I'm sending a car. I don't need... Yes, you do. Stay visible. Find a place with cameras and witnesses. Don't move until the driver gets there. Elena, please, Mr. Carter, just do what I'm asking. The line went dead. Noah walked back to the main street and found a 24-hour diner with bright lights and a view of the sidewalk. He sat in a booth by the window, ordered coffee he didn't want, and waited. The car arrived 12 minutes later. Same black sedan, same driver. Noah climbed in, and the locks clicked shut automatically. The driver didn't speak, just pulled into traffic and headed uptown. They didn't go to the office. Instead, the car pulled up in front of a luxury apartment building Noah had seen before only from the outside. The doorman nodded at the driver and opened the rear door. Ms. Voss is expecting you, 47th floor. Of course. The penthouse. Noah rode the elevator up alone, watching the numbers climb. When the doors opened, Elena was waiting in the hallway. She'd changed out of the evening gown into jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, her face scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked younger this way, and more tired. Come in, she said. The penthouse looked different at night. The city lights through the windows turned everything silver and blue. Elena led him to the living room and gestured to the couch. Sit. Tell me everything again, exactly what she said. Noah repeated the conversation with Amy Chen, watching Elena's expression shift from controlled to something darker. When he finished, she paced to the window and stood there, arms crossed, staring out at the city. Amy Chen was one of the best analysts we had, Elena said quietly. Sharp, thorough, loyal. When she was fired, I was told she'd been caught selling proprietary information to a competitor. You believe that? I didn't have a choice. The evidence was solid. Documentation, money transfers, everything. Elena turned to face him. But if what she told you is true, then that evidence was planted, which means someone with serious access and serious skills wanted her gone. Why? Because she found something big enough to justify burning her career to keep it quiet. Noah leaned back against the couch. His head was pounding. This is out of control. I know. No, I mean, I fix broken air conditioners. I help my kid with her homework. I don't do corporate espionage. You're doing it now. Because you asked me to, because I thought I could help. But this, he gestured vaguely, people following me, threats, secret meetings in alleys. This isn't my world. Elena crossed the room and sat down across from him. Her eyes were steady, unflinching. Then walk away. Noah blinked. What? I mean it. If this is too much, if it's too dangerous, then walk away. I'll make sure your name stays clear. I'll triple your severance. I'll write a recommendation letter that'll get you any job you want. But I won't blame you for leaving. Noah stared at her. You serious? Completely. He thought about Lily, safe in their apartment with Maya. Thought about the custody hearing, now only 2 weeks away. Thought about the life he'd built out of nothing, fragile and hard-won, and his. And then he thought about Amy Chen, fired and threatened, and alone because she'd tried to do the right thing. Thought about Elena, brilliant and terrified and under siege. Thought about the kind of person who'd burn someone's career or their home just to consolidate power. If I walk away, Noah said slowly, they win. Yes. And you're on your own. I've been on my own before. That's not an answer. Elena smiled faintly. No, it's not. Noah rubbed his face. Okay, I'm staying, but we do this smart. No more secrets, no more half-truths. If we're in this together, then we're actually in this together. Agreed. And I want full access, systems, files, personnel records, everything. If I'm going to help you figure out who's doing this, I need to see the whole picture. Elena hesitated, then nodded. I'll arrange it. Good. Noah stood. Now I need to go home before my babysitter charges me overtime. Elena walked him to the door. As he stepped into the hallway, she said, Mr. Carter? He turned. Yeah? Thank you. For staying. Noah managed a tired smile. Thank you for giving me the option to leave. He rode the elevator down, climbed into the waiting car, and let the driver take him home. By the time he walked into his apartment, it was past 2 in the morning. Maya was asleep on the couch, and Lily was sprawled across her bed, one arm hanging off the edge. Noah paid Maya double, sent her home in a cab, and stood in Lily's doorway for a long moment. She looked so small, so safe, so completely unaware of the mess her father had walked into. He promised himself right then that she'd stay that way, no matter what it took. The next morning, Noah was at the office by 8. Elena's assistant met him at the elevator with a new access card and a tablet loaded with file directories that made his eyes cross. He spent the first hour just trying to understand the organizational structure. Meridian Solutions had 5 divisions, each run by a different executive. Richard Dane handled finances. Veronica Lim managed operations. Marcus Trent ran strategic development. The other 2 were less prominent, but still powerful. A woman named Diane Kruger, who oversaw human resources, and a younger guy named Jason Park, who headed up technology and infrastructure. Noah started with Jason Park. If someone was manipulating Meridian systems, the tech division was the most likely access point. Park's office was on the 43rd floor, surrounded by glass walls and filled with monitors displaying lines of code Noah couldn't begin to decipher. Park himself was in his early 30s, lanky and perpetually disheveled, wearing a hoodie and jeans that probably violated every dress code the company had. He looked up when Noah knocked. "Yeah?" "Noah Carter, facilities liaison. Ms. Voss asked me to coordinate with department heads on security protocols." Park blinked. "Security protocols?" "System access, digital infrastructure, that kind of thing." "Oh, okay. What do you need?" Noah stepped inside and closed the door. "I need to know if anyone's been accessing parts of the network they shouldn't be." Park's expression shifted. Not quite guilty. More like uncomfortable. Define shouldn't be. Unusual activity. Logins from unauthorized devices. File transfers that don't match normal patterns. "You're talking about an audit. I'm talking about due diligence." Park leaned back in his chair, chewing on a thumbnail. "Look, man, I don't know what Elena told you, but the network here is locked down tight. We've got firewalls, encryption, multi-factor authentication. If someone's poking around where they shouldn't be, we'd know." "Would you?" "Yeah, we would." Noah studied him. Park was nervous, but not in a way that screamed guilt. More like someone who didn't want to get dragged into office politics. "When was the last time you ran a full security audit?" 3 months ago. Clean." "And since then?" Park hesitated. "Nothing official, but we monitor constantly. Automated alerts. If something trips a flag, we investigate." "Show me." Park pulled up a dashboard on one of his monitors. Rows of data scrolled past, most of it meaningless to Noah. But he saw timestamps, access logs, user IDs. "Can you filter this by executive access?" Noah asked. "Sure." Park typed a few commands, and the data narrowed. "Here, board members, VPs, C-suite." Noah scanned the list. Most of it looked routine. Logins during business hours, file access that matched job descriptions. But there were outliers, late-night logins, weekend activity, requests for files outside normal departmental boundaries. "Who's this?" Noah pointed at a user ID that showed up repeatedly at odd hours. VP-Strat-04. Park squinted at the screen. "That's Marcus Trent." Noah's pulse quickened. "What's he accessing?" Park clicked through the logs. "Looks like financial reports, personnel files, board meeting minutes." He frowned. "That's not his jurisdiction. He should only have access to strategic development documents. But he's got more." "Looks like it." "How?" Park shrugged. "Could be elevated privileges. Could be someone gave him credentials. Could be he's just really good at social engineering." "Can you track where the logins are coming from?" "IP addresses. Yeah, hang on." Park pulled up another screen. "Most of them are from his office workstation, but there's a bunch from external IPs, different locations, coffee shops, hotels, public Wi-Fi." "Can you trace those?" "Not precisely. Public networks don't keep detailed logs, but I can tell you when and where, generally." Noah leaned closer. "Do it." Park worked in silence for a few minutes, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Finally, he sat back. "Okay. So, in the last 3 months, Trent's logged in from outside the office 47 times. Most of it's normal, working from home, traveling for meetings. But there's a cluster here that's weird. He highlighted a series of logins. These are all from the same general area, downtown, near the financial district, but not from any address associated with company business. Can you narrow it down? Not without a warrant or a really good hacker, but I can tell you it's the same location each time. Someone set up shop somewhere and they're using it regularly. Noah pulled out his phone and took photos of the screen. Thanks. Hey man, I don't know what you're looking into, but Park shifted uncomfortably. Be careful, okay? Trent's got pull around here. If he finds out you're digging into his activity, it won't end well. Noted. Noah left Park's office and headed straight for Elena's. She was on the phone when he walked in, but she held up a finger and wrapped up the call quickly. Tell me, she said. Noah laid out what he'd found. The unusual access patterns, the external logins, the cluster of activity in the financial district. Elena's expression went cold and sharp. Marcus? You think he's behind this? I think he's involved. Whether he's running it or just following orders, I don't know yet. She stood and paced. Marcus has always been ambitious, too ambitious. He wants my job. He's never made a secret of it. Wanting your job and trying to kill you are pretty different. Are they? Elena turned to face him. In this world, ambition doesn't have limits. If Marcus thinks he can take control of Meridian by destroying me, he'll do it, and he's smart enough to make it look clean. Noah thought about Marcus at the event. The cold smile, the veiled threat. What do we do? We prove it. Find out where those external logins are coming from. If we can place Marcus at a location that ties him to the system's manipulation, we've got leverage. And if we can't, then we keep digging until we can. Elena picked up her phone. I'm calling my legal team. If we're going after Marcus, I need to make sure we do it right. Noah spent the rest of the morning coordinating with Elena's lawyers and security team. By noon, they had a plan. A private investigator would track Marcus's movements, focusing on the financial district locations flagged in the login data. Meanwhile, Noah would continue reviewing access logs, looking for connections between Marcus and the other suspects. It was tedious work. Hours of staring at spreadsheets and cross-referencing timestamps. But slowly, a pattern emerged. Marcus had accessed files related to Elena's schedule, her personal security protocols, her travel arrangements. He'd pulled personnel records for building maintenance staff, including Noah's, and 3 days before the fake work order that had sent Noah to Elena's penthouse, Marcus had downloaded a copy of the building's internal systems manual. Noah's hands shook as he compiled the evidence. This wasn't circumstantial. This was deliberate, calculated. He was halfway through drafting a summary when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop digging. Last warning. Noah stared at the screen, his heart pounding. He forwarded the message to Elena, then called her. She answered immediately. I saw it. Where are you? My desk, 45th floor. Stay there. I'm sending security. Elena, The lights went out, not just in Noah's office. The entire floor plunged into darkness. Emergency lighting flickered on after a few seconds, casting everything in dim red. Around him, people started murmuring, confused. Someone laughed nervously. A woman swore. Noah stood, his pulse racing. Through the glass walls, he could see the other floors. Most of them still had power, just the 45th floor was dark. And the 47th. Elena. Noah grabbed his phone and ran for the stairs. Behind him, someone shouted, but he didn't stop. He hit the stairwell at full speed, taking the steps 2 at a time. His lungs burned. His legs screamed. He didn't care. 46th floor, 47th. The stairwell door was locked. Noah slammed his shoulder into it. Nothing. He tried his access card. The reader was dead. Damn it! He pounded on the door. Elena, can you hear me? Silence. Noah backed up and looked around. The emergency lighting in the stairwell was still on, which meant the backup systems were working. But something had shut down the primary power, and the door locks were electronic, tied to the main grid. He pulled out his phone and called Elena. It rang, and rang, and rang. No answer. Noah's mind raced. The building had emergency overrides, manual releases for the locks in case of fire, but they were controlled from the security office on the ground floor. He turned and sprinted back down the stairs, his footsteps echoing. 46th, 45th, 44th. He lost count, just kept moving, his breath coming in ragged gasps. When he burst into the security office on the ground floor, Marcus was already there. The VP stood by the main console, watching the screens with an expression of mild concern. Two security guards flanked him. When Noah came through the door, Marcus turned and smiled. "Mr. Carter, what's the rush?" Noah fought to catch his breath. "The 47th floor, the power's out. Elena's trapped." "I'm aware. We're working on it." "Then unlock the doors." "We can't. The system's down." "Use the manual override." Marcus gestured at the console. "That's what we're trying to do, but it's not responding. Whatever caused the outage, it's interfering with the backup protocols." Noah stepped closer, and one of the guards moved to block him. "Get out of my way." "Stand down, Mr. Carter," Marcus said calmly. "Let the professionals handle this." "The professionals work for you." "They work for the company, same as you." Noah's fists clenched. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, that Marcus was stalling, that every second they wasted put Elena in more danger. But there were two armed guards between him and the console, and Marcus was watching him with that same cold smile. Noah forced himself to take a breath, to think. Then his phone buzzed, a text from Elena. "Trapped. Can't breathe. Fire." Noah's blood turned to ice. He looked at Marcus, at the guards, at the useless console, and then he turned and ran. Behind him, Marcus shouted something, but Noah was already gone, his feet pounding against the polished lobby floor. He didn't have a plan, didn't have tools, didn't have anything except Elena's message burning in his mind and 3 years of knowing this building better than anyone else. Fire. She'd said fire. The sprinkler system would have triggered automatically unless someone had disabled it. The emergency ventilation should have kicked in to clear smoke unless someone had shut it down too. Someone who knew the building's systems. Someone with access and knowledge and a willingness to watch a woman suffocate while pretending to help. Noah hit the service corridor at a dead run. The maintenance areas weren't pretty. Bare concrete, exposed pipes. The guts of the building laid open, but they were fast. And right now, fast was all that mattered. He grabbed a fire axe off the wall and kept moving. The service elevator was dead like everything else, so he took the maintenance ladder. 47 floors. Straight up. His shoulders screamed after the first 10. His hands were slick with sweat by 20. He didn't stop. 30 floors, his lungs felt like they were tearing. 40. His vision started to blur at the edges. He thought about Lily, about the promise he'd made to always come home, about how stupid it was to die climbing a ladder in a building he'd spent 3 years keeping alive. 47. Noah hauled himself onto the narrow catwalk that ran along the ceiling of the 47th floor mechanical room. Smoke was already seeping through the ventilation ducts, thin and gray. He could smell it. Electrical fire, chemical, wrong. The penthouse was on the other side of the wall. Noah moved along the catwalk until he found what he was looking for, an access panel that maintenance used to reach the HVAC controls. He wedged the axe into the seam and pried. The panel groaned, bent, then popped free with a shriek of metal. Smoke poured out, thick and black. Noah pulled his shirt over his mouth and nose and climbed through. The penthouse was chaos. Emergency lights flickered red through the smoke. Somewhere, an alarm was screaming. Noah couldn't see more than a few feet in any direction. He dropped to his hands and knees where the air was clear and crawled forward. "Elena!" His voice came out raw. "Elena, where are you?" Nothing. He crawled faster, one hand outstretched, feeling his way through the smoke. His eyes burned. His throat felt like sandpaper. The heat was building, not intense yet, but getting there. The fire was small, contained, but it wouldn't stay that way. His hand hit something soft. Fabric. Noah grabbed hold and pulled. Elena's body slid toward him, limp and terrifyingly light. He couldn't tell if she was breathing, couldn't tell if he was already too late. He hooked his arms under hers and dragged her back toward the access panel. The smoke was thicker now, pressing down like a living thing. Noah's vision swam. His muscles shook. He focused on the red glow of the emergency lights and pulled. They reached the panel. Noah shoved Elena through first, then hauled himself up after her. The catwalk was narrow, barely wide enough for one person, let alone two. He got Elena onto his back in something approximating a fireman's carry and started down the ladder. It was the longest descent of his life. Every rung felt like a mile. Elena's weight shifted and slipped, and Noah had to keep adjusting his grip to keep them both from falling. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold on. Twice he missed a rung, and his stomach lurched as they dropped a few inches before he caught himself. 30 floors down, Elena coughed, a wet, rattling sound that was the most beautiful thing Noah had ever heard. "Hang on," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Almost there." 20 floors? 10. They hit the bottom, and Noah's legs gave out. He collapsed onto the concrete floor with Elena still on his back, both of them gasping for air that didn't taste like death. Elena rolled off him and curled onto her side, coughing violently. Noah lay flat on his back, staring at the ceiling, his chest heaving. "You okay?" he managed. Elena's response was another coughing fit, but she nodded. That was enough. Noah forced himself to sit up. They were in the sub-basement, surrounded by pipes and machinery and the low hum of the building's heart. No one knew they were here. No cameras, no witnesses. "Can you walk?" he asked. Elena nodded again, still coughing. "Good, because we need to move. Now." He helped her to her feet. She leaned heavily against him, her breathing shallow and ragged, but she stayed upright. They made their way through the maintenance tunnels, following the path Noah had memorized over 3 years of fixing things no one else wanted to touch. They emerged in the parking garage, far from the main lobby and the cameras Marcus would be watching. Noah's car was on the 3rd level, ancient and ugly but reliable. He got Elena into the passenger seat and climbed behind the wheel. His hands were still shaking. He gripped the steering wheel hard to steady them. "Hospital?" he asked. Elena shook her head, then winced and pressed a hand to her temple. "No, they'll find us. You need medical attention. I need to stay alive long enough to finish this." Noah looked at her. Her face was streaked with soot. Her eyes were red and watering. She looked like she'd been through a war. Maybe she had. "Where then?" he asked. Elena gave him an address in a part of town Noah didn't know well. Residential, quiet. He plugged it into his phone and drove. They didn't talk. Elena leaned against the window, her eyes closed, her breathing slowly evening out. Noah kept checking the rearview mirror, waiting for headlights to appear behind them, waiting for Marcus or his guards or whoever else was part of this to catch up. No one came. The address turned out to be a small house tucked between 2 apartment buildings. Easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. Elena fumbled in her pocket and pulled out a key. "Safe house," she said, her voice hoarse. "Company asset, off the books." They went inside. The house was sparse but functional. Basic furniture, a kitchenette, a bathroom. Elena headed straight for the sink and ran cold water over her face and hands. Noah stood in the doorway watching her. "What happened up there?" he asked. Elena dried her face with a towel, moving slowly, carefully. "Someone triggered the fire suppression system manually, flooded the penthouse with halon gas. It's supposed to put out fires, but in an enclosed space with no ventilation." She trailed off. "I couldn't breathe, couldn't get out. The doors were locked. The windows wouldn't break. I thought..." Her voice caught. "But you're alive," Noah said quietly. "Because of you." She turned to face him. "You shouldn't have come. You should have let the fire department handle it. By the time they got there, you'd be dead." "Maybe." "Not maybe. Definitely." Noah crossed his arms. "Someone tried to kill you again, and Marcus was standing in the security office making sure no one could help." "Marcus?" Elena's expression went cold and flat. "I want proof." "We have proof. The access logs, the system manipulation, the timing. Circumstantial. A good lawyer would tear it apart." She moved into the living room and sank onto the couch. "We need more. Something that ties him directly to the attacks, something undeniable." Noah sat across from her. "You almost died today. I know. And you're already planning the next move." "What else am I supposed to do?" Elena's voice cracked slightly. "Fall apart? Give up? Let them win?" "You're allowed to be scared." "I don't have time to be scared." She looked at him, and for the first time since he'd met her, her mask cracked completely. "If I stop moving, if I let myself think about what just happened, I'll..." She stopped, took a breath. "I can't fall apart. Not yet." Noah didn't know what to say to that, so he just sat with her in the silence, letting her hold herself together however she needed to. After a long moment, Elena's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, glanced at the screen. and her expression shifted. It's the private investigator. He found something. She put the call on speaker. Ms. Voss? The voice was male, professional, clipped. I tracked Trent to the location you specified, financial district, office building on Fulton Street. He's been visiting 3 times a week for the past 2 months, always after hours, always alone. What's in the building? Elena asked. Mostly corporate offices, law firms, consulting groups, but there's a small tech startup on the 4th floor. Data security firm called Sentinel Analytics. Elena and Noah exchanged glances. Who owns it? Elena asked. That's where it gets interesting. Sentinel Analytics is a shell company, registered in Delaware, owned by a holding company, which is owned by another holding company. I'm still tracing the chain, but it's designed to obscure ownership. Someone's hiding, Noah said. Someone's very good at hiding, the investigator corrected. But I'll find them. Give me another day. You have 12 hours, Elena said. After that, I'm going to the board with what we have. Understood. The line went dead. Elena set the phone down and rubbed her eyes. Sentinel Analytics. I've never heard of them. If they're good at data security, they're probably good at staying invisible, Noah said. Question is, what's Marcus doing there? Meeting with whoever's running this, coordinating, planning. Elena stood and paced. If we can prove Marcus is working with Sentinel, and if we can prove Sentinel's behind the system's manipulation, then we have him. Big ifs. I know, but it's all we've got. She turned to face him. I need you to do something for me. What? Go home. Check on your daughter. Make sure she's safe. Noah frowned. Why wouldn't she be safe? Because if Marcus knows we're onto him, he'll look for leverage. And you're my leverage now, Mr. Carter. Which means your daughter is too. Noah's blood went cold. You think he'd go after Lily? I think he'd do whatever it takes to protect himself. And right now, that means stopping us. Elena's voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. Call your babysitter. Tell her to take Lily somewhere public, somewhere with people and cameras, a mall, a park, anywhere that's not your apartment. Noah pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called Maya. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding sleepy. Mr. Carter, it's kind of late. I need you to do me a favor, Noah interrupted. Can you take Lily to your sister's place tonight? Tonight? It's almost 10. Please, Maya, I'll pay you triple. Just get her out of the apartment and somewhere safe. There was a pause. Is everything okay? No, but it will be. Just, please, do this for me. Okay, give me 20 minutes. Thank you. Noah hung up and looked at Elena. Now what? Now we wait. And we plan. She pulled out a laptop from a drawer in the corner and powered it on. If Marcus is working with Sentinel Analytics, then he's been coordinating through secure channels, encrypted communications, burner phones. But people make mistakes. Everyone does. We just need to find his. They spent the next 3 hours combing through everything they had. Access logs, financial records, travel schedules, email metadata. Noah's eyes burned from staring at the screen, but he kept going. Somewhere in the data was the thread they needed to pull. It was past midnight when Elena sat back and pointed at the screen. There. Noah leaned in. What am I looking at? Marcus's expense reports. 3 months ago, he submitted a reimbursement for a business lunch. $500 at a restaurant downtown. So the restaurant went out of business 6 months ago. Noah blinked. He filed a fake expense report. He filed a fake expense report and got it approved, which means he needed $500 in untraceable cash and didn't want it showing up on his personal accounts. Elena zoomed in on the date. 3 days before Amy Chen was fired. You think he used it to pay someone off? I think he needed cash for something he couldn't afford to have traced. Could be a payoff. Could be a bribe. Could be a down payment on something bigger. She made a note. It's not proof, but it's another piece. They kept digging. More irregularities emerged. Small discrepancies in travel expenses, meetings that didn't appear on official calendars, purchases that made no sense in context. None of it was damning on its own, but together it painted a picture of someone operating in the shadows. By 2 a.m, they had a timeline. A pattern of behavior that showed Marcus systematically positioning himself to take over Meridian while simultaneously sabotaging Elena's authority. The fake work order, the fire, the system's manipulation, all of it leading back to one person. We need to confront him, Noah said. Elena shook her head. Not yet. If we go after him now, he'll lawyer up and we'll spend the next year in court while he destroys evidence. We need to catch him in the act. How? By giving him a reason to make a move. Elena closed the laptop. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling an emergency board meeting. I'm going to tell them I've discovered evidence of internal sabotage and that I'm launching a full investigation. That'll force Marcus's hand. He'll either have to cover his tracks or accelerate his plan. And when he does, we'll be watching. Exactly. Noah leaned back and rubbed his face. This is insane. Welcome to my world, Mr. Carter. They spent what was left of the night at the safe house. Elena took the bedroom. Noah stretched out on the couch, but sleep didn't come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw smoke, felt the weight of Elena's body on his back, heard the screech of metal as he pried open the access panel. He'd saved her life today, but tomorrow they were walking back into the fire. His phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Lily's with my sister, safe and sound. She wants to know when you're picking her up. Noah typed back a response. Tomorrow night. Tell her I love her. Will do. Be safe, Mr. Carter. He set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere across town, his daughter was asleep, safe, unaware of the mess her father was tangled in. That was how it should be, how it had to stay. When morning came, Elena was already awake, dressed in fresh clothes she'd pulled from a closet in the bedroom. She looked pale but determined, her armor back in place. You ready? She asked. Noah stood and stretched, his muscles protesting. Ready as I'll ever be. They drove back to Arcadia Tower in silence. The building looked normal in the daylight, glass and steel and corporate efficiency. No sign of the chaos from the night before. Noah wondered if anyone even knew what had happened. If Marcus had spun some story about a minor electrical issue, nothing to worry about, everything under control. They took the elevator to the executive floor. People stared as they walked past. Elena ignored them. Noah tried to. The boardroom was on the 46th floor, a massive space with a table that could seat 20. Elena's assistant had already sent the meeting request. By 9:30, the room was full. Richard Dane sat at one end, looking hungover and irritable. Veronica Lim was next to him, her expression unreadable. Jason Park fidgeted with his phone. Diane Kruger and two other board members Noah didn't recognize filled in the rest of the seats. And Marcus Trent sat directly across from Elena, his hands folded on the table, his face calm and composed. Elena stood at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming on short notice. I'll get straight to the point. Over the past several weeks, Meridian has experienced a series of security breaches. Unauthorized system access, falsified work orders, and last night, a deliberate attempt to sabotage critical infrastructure. The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once. Richard demanded details. Veronica wanted to know why she hadn't been informed sooner. Jason looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. Marcus said nothing, just watched Elena with those cold, calculating eyes. Elena raised a hand, and the room quieted. I've been conducting an internal investigation with the help of our facilities liaison, Mr. Carter. She gestured to Noah, and every head in the room turned. We've uncovered evidence that suggests the breaches were orchestrated by someone inside the company, someone with high-level access and detailed knowledge of our systems. Who? Richard asked. That's what we're here to determine. Elena pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. These are access logs showing unusual activity across multiple departments, late-night logins, external IP addresses, files accessed outside normal parameters. I want full transparency. I want every person in this room to account for their activity over the past 3 months. Veronica leaned forward. You're accusing one of us? I'm stating facts. Someone in this company is trying to destroy it from the inside, and we're going to find out who. Marcus finally spoke. His voice was smooth, unbothered. This is quite an accusation, Elena. Do you have any actual proof, or are we operating on paranoia? I have evidence, Elena said evenly. Whether it constitutes proof is for this board to decide. Then present it. Elena opened the folder and began laying out the timeline, the fake work order, the systems manipulation, the shell companies, the irregular expense reports. She didn't mention Sentinel Analytics. Not yet. That card she was holding close. As she talked, Noah watched Marcus, watched for a crack, a tell, anything that would give him away. Marcus listened with polite interest, like he was hearing about someone else's problems. When Elena finished, he smiled. "That's impressive detective work," he said, "but I'm afraid it doesn't prove anything. Irregular expenses can be explained. System access can be justified. You're connecting dots that may not be connected at all." "Then explain the expense report for a restaurant that was already closed," Elena said. Marcus didn't even blink. "Clerical error. I submitted the wrong receipt. It happens." "And the external logins?" "I work remotely sometimes. Is that a crime?" Elena's jaw tightened. "You're not taking this seriously." "I'm taking it very seriously. I'm just not convinced we're chasing a real threat instead of shadows." Marcus looked around the table. "With all due respect, Elena, you've been under a lot of stress lately. The fire at your previous apartment, the pressure from investors. It's understandable that you might see conspiracies where there are none." "Someone tried to kill me last night," Elena said, her voice like ice. The room went silent. Marcus tilted his head. "Last night, I heard there was a minor electrical issue on the 47th floor. Nothing life-threatening. It was hell on gas. Deliberate, and the doors were locked from the outside." "That sounds terrifying. Did you report it to the authorities?" Elena hesitated, just for a second. But it was enough. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You didn't, because you know it would raise questions. Questions about why you were in the building after hours. Questions about whether this is all part of some elaborate performance to distract from the company's declining numbers." "That's absurd," Veronica said, but she sounded uncertain. Marcus shrugged. "Is it? Look at the facts. Elena claims there's a conspiracy, but she can't prove who's behind it. She brings in an outside contractor," he gestured at Noah, "and elevates him to a position of trust without proper vetting. She makes wild accusations without evidence, and when challenged, she plays the victim." Richard snorted. "He's got a point." Elena's hands were shaking. Noah could see it, even though she kept them flat on the table. She'd expected resistance, but not this. Not Marcus turning the entire narrative against her. "I'm not the victim here," Elena said. "I'm the target. And if you can't see that, then you're either blind or complicit." Marcus smiled. "Careful, Elena. Accusations like that have consequences." Noah stood. Every eye in the room turned to him. "You were in the security office last night," Noah said, his voice steady. "When the power went out, when Elena was trapped, you were there, and you did nothing." Marcus looked at him like he was an insect. "I was coordinating the response, doing my job." "You were stalling. Prove it." And there it was. The challenge. The line in the sand. Noah met his eyes and didn't flinch. "I will." The boardroom felt like it had run out of air. Marcus's smile didn't waver. Big words from someone who was changing light bulbs 2 weeks ago. Noah took a step forward. "I've spent 3 years in this building. I know every system, every protocol, every shortcut. I know when something's wrong, and last night, everything was wrong." "That's not proof. That's opinion." "Then let's talk about Sentinel Analytics." The room went still. Marcus's smile finally cracked. Just a fraction. Just enough. Elena stood. "Sentinel Analytics is a shell company operating out of an office on Fulton Street. You've been visiting it 3 times a week for 2 months, meeting with people who don't exist on paper. Why?" Marcus recovered quickly. "I meet with a lot of people. Tech consultants, security firms. It's part of my job." "Then you won't mind if we subpoena their records?" "Go ahead. You won't find anything." "We'll see." Richard cleared his throat. "Okay, this is getting out of hand. Elena, if you have real evidence, present it. If not, we're wasting time." "I have enough to warrant a formal investigation," Elena said, "and I'm calling for a vote. As CEO, I'm requesting the board approve an independent audit of all executive activity for the past 6 months. Full transparency, no exceptions." Veronica leaned back. "That's a big ask." "It's necessary. It's also expensive and disruptive, and frankly, it makes us look weak to investors. Looking weak is better than being destroyed from the inside." Marcus stood slowly. "I think what Elena is really asking for is a vote of no confidence. In herself." The room erupted again. Elena's face went white. "That's not what I—" "Isn't it?" Marcus spread his hands. "You're asking us to investigate ourselves because you can't manage your own security. You're accusing your leadership team of conspiracy without evidence. You're dragging the company through the mud based on hunches and paranoia. He looked around the table. I think it's time we consider whether Elena Voss is still fit to lead Meridian Solutions. Richard nodded slowly. He's got a point. No, Noah said. He doesn't. Marcus turned on him. You don't get a vote, Mr. Carter. You're not even supposed to be in this room. Maybe not. But I'm the one who pulled Elena out of a burning building while you stood downstairs doing nothing. So yeah, I think I've earned the right to speak. Diane Kruger spoke for the first time. What exactly are you accusing Marcus of? Noah looked at Elena. She gave a small nod. Attempted murder, Noah said. Corporate sabotage, fraud, conspiracy. Take your pick. The silence was deafening. Marcus laughed. Not nervously, genuinely amused. This is insane. You're both insane. Then prove us wrong, Elena said quietly. Open your files. Show us your communications. Account for every meeting, every expense, every login. If you're innocent, you have nothing to hide. Marcus's expression went cold. I don't have to prove anything. You do. And since you can't, I'm done with this circus. He grabbed his jacket. When you're ready to have a serious conversation about leadership, call me. Until then, I've got actual work to do. He walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Richard sighed. Well, that was dramatic. Elena's hands were shaking again. Noah could see her fighting to keep her voice steady. I'm not backing down. With or without board approval, I'm investigating this. Then you're doing it alone, Veronica said. I'm not signing off on an audit that'll cost millions and accomplish nothing. Veronica, no, Elena. I've supported you for years, but this is too far. She stood. Get your house in order, then we'll talk. One by one, the board members filed out. Diane gave Elena a sympathetic look but said nothing. Jason wouldn't meet her eyes. Richard just shook his head. Within 3 minutes, the boardroom was empty except for Elena and Noah. Elena sat down heavily. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. That went well, Noah said. He outplayed me. Her voice was flat. I gave him the opening, and he turned the whole thing around. Now I look paranoid and incompetent. You look like someone fighting for her life. Same thing, in this world. She pressed her palms against her eyes. I should have waited. Should have had more proof before going to the board. We had proof. They just didn't want to see it. Because Marcus is right about one thing. I can't prove intent. Everything we have is circumstantial. A good lawyer would shred it in minutes. She lowered her hands. We're losing. Noah pulled out his phone. Maybe not. He dialed the private investigator. The man answered on the first ring. Mr. Carter, I was just about to call you. You found something? I found everything. Sentinel Analytics is owned by a holding company registered to Marcus Trent's brother-in-law. The office on Fulton is leased under a fake name, but the credit card used for payments traces back to an account Trent has access to, and I pulled security footage from the building lobby. Trent's been meeting with a woman named Sarah Kovach. She's a data security specialist, former NSA, now freelance. Noah put the phone on speaker so Elena could hear. What's she been doing? Based on her background, my guess is systems penetration, hacking, digital manipulation, everything you'd need to pull off what happened at Meridian. Elena leaned forward. Can you prove they're working together? I've got footage of them meeting. Timestamps that match up with the security breaches at your company. Financial transfers between Trent's accounts and a consulting firm that Kovach operates through. The investigator paused. It's not airtight, but it's a hell of a lot more than circumstantial. Send everything to my secure email, Elena said. Everything. And be ready to testify if this goes to court. You got it. The line went dead. Elena looked at Noah. For the first time since the board meeting, there was something like hope in her eyes. We've got him. We've got pieces. Now we need to put them together in a way the board can't ignore. Elena stood and started pacing. We go back to them. Show them the evidence. Force another vote. They already voted. With their feet. They don't trust you right now. Then what do you suggest? Noah thought about it. About Marcus walking out of that boardroom, confident and untouchable. About the way he'd smiled when he accused Elena of paranoia. About the cold calculation in his eyes. We don't go to the board, Noah said slowly. We go to the authorities, police, FBI, whoever handles corporate fraud. That'll take months, maybe years. By then, Marcus will have destroyed all the evidence and I'll be out of a job. Then we make him slip up, give him a reason to make a mistake. How? Noah met her eyes. We let him think he's won. It took Elena a moment to understand, then she nodded slowly. We go quiet. Stop the investigation. Make him think we've backed off. And when he gets comfortable, when he thinks he's safe, he'll make a move, something we can catch in real time. That's risky. Everything about this is risky. Elena walked to the window and stared out at the city. If we're wrong, if he doesn't take the bait, I lose everything. The company, my reputation, everything I've built. And if we're right, then we take him down. She turned back to Noah. Okay, let's do it. They spent the rest of the day laying the groundwork. Elena sent an email to the board apologizing for the disruption and announcing she was stepping back from the investigation to focus on company operations. She made calls to key investors, reassuring them that Meridian was stable and that recent concerns had been overblown. To anyone watching, it looked like a retreat, like she'd been beaten. Marcus would love that. Meanwhile, Noah worked with Jason Park to set up surveillance on Marcus's network activity. They couldn't monitor him directly. That would be illegal and obvious, but they could watch for unusual patterns. Large file transfers, access to sensitive systems, anything that suggested he was moving evidence or preparing his next attack. By evening, the trap was set. Now they just had to wait. Noah went home that night for the first time in 2 days. The apartment felt empty without Lily. He called Maya's sister and talked to his daughter for 20 minutes, listening to her chatter about the Science Museum field trip and how Mrs. Patterson let her hold a tarantula and how she wanted to get one as a pet now instead of a turtle. Absolutely not, Noah said. But Dad, no spiders, no snakes, no animals with more than 4 legs or fewer than 2. Lily giggled. You're weird. I'm practical. There's a difference. When are you coming to get me? Soon, kiddo. Maybe tomorrow. Promise? Noah closed his eyes. Promise. After he hung up, he sat in the dark living room and tried not to think about everything that could go wrong, tried not to think about what would happen to Lily if Marcus won, if Noah ended up in jail or worse. He'd made a promise to his daughter years ago, after the divorce, after the custody battle, after everything fell apart. He'd promised her that no matter what, he'd always come home, that she'd never be alone. He intended to keep that promise. His phone buzzed, a text from Elena. Marcus just accessed the server, pulling files from the legal department. Noah was out the door in seconds. He met Elena at the safe house 20 minutes later. She had her laptop open, Jason Park on a video call, his face pale and serious. He's downloading everything, Jason said. Contracts, personnel files, financial records. It's like he's backing up the entire company. Can you see where he's sending it? Elena asked. External drive, probably planning to wipe his tracks from our system and keep a copy somewhere we can't touch. Noah leaned over Elena's shoulder. Can we stop him? Not without tipping him off that we're watching, but I can track the transfer, see how much data he's moving. They watched the progress bar crawl across the screen. 30%, 40, 50. He's panicking, Elena said quietly. He thinks we've backed off, but he's not taking chances. He's preparing to run. Or preparing to strike, Noah said. If he's got copies of everything, he can leak it, twist it, use it to destroy you even after he's gone. Elena's jaw tightened. Then we can't let him leave. The download hit 70%, then 80%. What's the plan? Noah asked. Elena stood. We confront him, now, before he has a chance to disappear. With what proof? With all of it. The investigator's report, the surveillance footage, the financial transfers. We hit him with everything at once and we don't give him room to talk his way out. And if he runs? Then we make sure someone's there to stop him. Elena made 3 calls. First to the investigator, telling him to meet them at Arcadia Tower with all his files. Second to her lawyer, putting him on standby. Third to building security, not Marcus's people, but a private firm she'd quietly hired the day before. People she could trust. By midnight, they were all assembled in Elena's office. The investigator, a wiry man named Davis, laid out printed documents and photographs across the conference table. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Yoon, reviewed everything with clinical precision. It's solid, Patricia said finally. Not perfect, but solid. Enough to get law enforcement involved. Enough to force the board to act. Then let's move, Elena said. They found Marcus in his office on the 44th floor. He was still at his desk, his computer on, a leather bag packed and sitting by the door. He looked up when they walked in. For just a second, surprise flickered across his face. Then the mask came back. Elena, Mr. Carter. Burning the midnight oil? We need to talk, Elena said. I don't think we do. We have evidence? Real evidence. Linking you to Sentinel Analytics, to Sarah Kovacs, to every security breach Meridian's experienced in the past 6 months. Marcus leaned back in his chair. That's a hell of an accusation. It's a hell of a crime. Davis stepped forward and dropped a folder on Marcus's desk. Surveillance footage, financial records, meeting logs. You've been sloppy, Mr. Trent. Arrogant. You thought you were untouchable. Marcus opened the folder. His expression didn't change as he flipped through the pages, but Noah saw his fingers tighten on the edges of the paper. This proves nothing, Marcus said finally. It proves you've been working with a known hacker to destabilize this company, Patricia said. It proves you falsified expense reports to hide cash payments. It proves you accessed systems you had no authorization to touch. And combined with witness testimony, she gestured to Noah, it's enough to put you in prison. Marcus closed the folder. You're bluffing. Try me. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Marcus stood. Okay. You want the truth? Fine. Yes, I hired Kovacs. Yes, I accessed files I wasn't supposed to. Yes, I created the work order that sent Carter to Elena's penthouse. Elena's face went white. You're admitting it. I'm explaining it. There's a difference. Marcus crossed his arms. This company was dying under your leadership, Elena. Investors were losing confidence. Profits were down. The board was starting to ask questions. Someone had to act. By trying to kill me? By creating a crisis that would force you out. The work order was supposed to be a security scare. A reason for the board to question your judgment. That's it. But then you brought Carter into your inner circle and started playing detective, and everything got complicated. What about the fire? Noah asked, his voice tight. Marcus hesitated, just for a second. That wasn't me. Bullshit. I swear, I didn't touch the penthouse. I didn't trigger the halon system. That was... He stopped. That was who? Elena demanded. Marcus looked at her, and for the first time, Noah saw something like fear in his eyes. You think I'm the only one who wants you gone? You think I'm the only one with a motive? Elena stepped closer. Who else? Figure it out yourself. I'm done. Marcus grabbed his bag. You want to take this to the board, to the police? Go ahead. But I'm not going down alone. And when the dust settles, you'll realize I was trying to save this company, not destroy it. He walked toward the door. Noah moved to block him. Get out of my way, Marcus said. No, I'm not going to ask twice. Noah stood his ground. You almost killed her. You set me up. You put my daughter at risk. I'm not letting you walk out of here like none of that matters. Marcus's expression hardened. Your daughter's fine. I never touched her. Never even thought about it. Whatever else I am, I'm not a monster. Could have fooled me. For a moment, it looked like Marcus might actually swing. His hand clenched into a fist, his jaw tight. Then he exhaled and stepped back. Security's already on their way up, Elena said quietly. Private contractors. Not your people. You're not leaving this building tonight. Marcus smiled bitterly. You've thought of everything. I learned from the best. The security team arrived 3 minutes later. They escorted Marcus out without incident, his protests fading down the hallway. Davis and Patricia stayed behind, already coordinating with law enforcement. Elena sank into Marcus's chair, her hands shaking. It's over, Noah said. No, it's not. She looked up at him. Marcus said the fire wasn't him, which means someone else is involved, someone we haven't found yet. Noah's stomach dropped. Who? I don't know. But we need to find out, before they try again. They went back to Elena's office and started digging through the evidence again, looking for connections they'd missed. It was nearly 3 a.m. when Elena's phone rang. She answered. Hello? Her face went pale. When? A pause. Is anyone hurt? Another pause. I'll be right there. She hung up and looked at Noah. There's a fire. At Meridian's data center across town, someone said it deliberately. They drove to the data center in silence, Noah's knuckles white on the steering wheel. The building was already surrounded by fire trucks when they arrived, flames licking out of the upper windows. Firefighters worked to contain the blaze, but it was clear they were fighting a losing battle. Elena stood on the sidewalk, watching her company burn. "Everything's in there," she said quietly. "Backups, servers, client data. If we lose this, we lose Meridian." Noah didn't know what to say, didn't know how to fix this. For once, there was no ladder to climb, no door to break down, no way to pull someone out of the fire. A firefighter approached. "You the owner?" Elena nodded. "We found evidence of accelerant, multiple points of origin. This was arson." "I know." The firefighter gave her a sympathetic look. "I'm sorry." Elena turned away and walked toward the car. Noah followed. "We need to find out who did this," she said. "Now. Before they destroy anything else." They were halfway back to the office when Noah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed invisible, Mr. Carter. Now everyone you care about is at risk." Noah's blood turned to ice. "Elena, stop the car." She pulled over. "What?" He showed her the message. Elena's face went hard. "Call your daughter, now." Noah dialed Maya's sister with shaking hands. It rang and rang and whack. No answer. He tried Maya. Same thing. "Something's wrong," he said. Elena was already pulling back into traffic, driving faster than she should. "Where are they?" "Brooklyn, Prospect Heights." "We'll be there in 15 minutes." They made it in 12. Elena parked illegally in front of the building, and they ran inside. Noah took the stairs 3 at a time, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. Maya's sister's apartment was on the 4th floor. The door was unlocked. Noah burst inside. "Ah, Lily, where are you?" The apartment was dark, silent. Then he heard it. A small, scared voice from the bedroom. "Daddy?" Noah nearly collapsed with relief. He ran to the bedroom and found Lily sitting on the bed, her eyes wide. Maya and her sister were there too, both looking shaken but unhurt. "What happened?" Noah demanded. Maya's voice trembled. "Someone tried to break in, about an hour ago. We heard them at the door. We called the police and they ran. But they left this." She handed him a note. "Stop investigating or the next fire won't be a building." Noah crumpled the note in his fist. "Pack a bag. All of you. You're coming with us." Within 10 minutes, they were back in Elena's car, Lily in Noah's lap, Maya and her sister in the back. Elena drove to the safe house without a word. Once inside, Noah got Lily settled on the couch with a blanket. She was trying to be brave, but he could see the fear in her eyes. "Dad, what's happening?" "Just some trouble at work, kiddo, but it's going to be okay." "You promise?" Noah kissed her forehead. "I promise." But he didn't know if he could keep it. Elena pulled him aside. "This ends tonight. We find out who's doing this and we stop them permanently." "How?" "By going to the one person who might actually know." She pulled out her phone. "Veronica." Noah blinked. "You think it's her?" "I think she knows more than she's saying, and I think it's time she told us the truth." They left Lily with Maya and drove to Veronica's apartment in the Upper East Side. It was nearly 5 in the morning, but Elena didn't care. She pounded on the door until Veronica answered, wrapped in a robe and furious. "Elena, what the hell?" "Someone burned our data center. Someone threatened Noah's daughter. Someone's been trying to kill me for months." Elena's voice was ice. "And I think you know who." Veronica stared at her. "You're insane." "Then prove me wrong. Tell me you had nothing to do with this." "I didn't." "But you know who did." Veronica's expression cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. "Come inside." They followed her into an apartment that was all clean lines and expensive art. Veronica poured herself a drink and downed it in one gulp. "It's Richard," she said finally. Elena froze. "What?" "Richard Dane. He's been planning this for over a year. He came to me 6 months ago, asked if I'd help him push you out. Promised me COO if I played along." "And you said yes?" "I said I'd think about it, but I never actually helped him. I just didn't stop him either." Noah stepped forward. "People could have died." "I know." Veronica's voice broke. "I know. And I've hated myself every day since. But I was scared. Richard said if I went against him, he'd destroy me too, so I kept quiet. I let it happen. I'm sorry. Elena's hands were shaking. Where is he? I don't know, but he's got contingencies, safe houses, offshore accounts. If he's running, you'll never find him. He's not running, Elena said quietly. He's finishing what he started, which means he'll go after the one thing I care about more than the company. She looked at Noah, and Noah understood. Lily. They were in the car and moving before Veronica could say another word. Elena drove like the road was on fire, weaving through early morning traffic. Noah tried calling the safe house. No answer. Faster, he said. I'm trying. They made it back in 20 minutes. The front door was open. Noah ran inside, shouting Lily's name. The living room was empty. The bedroom was empty. In the kitchen, he found Maya on the floor, conscious but dazed, a bruise forming on her temple. They took her, Maya whispered. I tried to stop them. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Noah's world tilted. He grabbed Maya's shoulders. Who? Who took her? A man. Older. He said if you want her back, you'll meet him at Meridian, top floor. Alone. Noah stood. His vision narrowed to a single point of clarity. Elena grabbed his arm. Noah, wait, this is a trap. I don't care. We need to call the police. There's no time. Then I'm coming with you. Noah looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes, the fear, the same desperate protectiveness he felt burning in his own chest. Okay, he said, but we do this smart. They had one advantage. They knew the building better than Richard did. Noah had spent 3 years crawling through its bones, and Elena had designed half its security systems. If Richard wanted a confrontation on the 47th floor, they'd give him one, but on their terms. They arrived at Arcadia Tower as the sun was starting to rise. The lobby was empty. The elevators were locked down. Noah used his maintenance access to get into the service corridor, and they took the ladder up, just like before. This time, Noah carried more than an axe. Elena had made a call, and a discreet security contractor had delivered a package to the car. Nothing fancy, nothing illegal, just enough to even the odds. They reached the 47th floor and moved quietly through the mechanical spaces. Noah could hear voices on the other side of the wall. Richard and Lily crying. Every cell in Noah's body screamed to break through the wall and tear Richard apart, but he forced himself to stay calm, to wait, to listen. Your father's going to be here soon, Richard was saying, and when he arrives, we're going to have a conversation about priorities, about knowing when to walk away. I want my dad, Lily sobbed. You'll see him, I promise. Noah moved to the access panel and carefully, silently pried it open. He could see into the penthouse now. Richard stood near the window, Lily beside him, his hand on her shoulder. He wasn't armed, didn't need to be. He had the only leverage that mattered. Elena touched Noah's arm and pointed. She'd spotted another access point on the far side of the room. If they split up, they could come at Richard from 2 directions. Noah nodded. They separated. Noah waited, counting to 30 in his head. Then he pushed through the panel and dropped into the penthouse. Richard spun around. Carter, right on time. Noah raised his hands. Let her go. Not yet. First, we're going to reach an understanding. About what? About the fact that this was never personal. Elena needed to go. The company needed new leadership. I did what was necessary. Richard's voice was calm, reasonable, like they were discussing quarterly reports. But you turned it into something messy. You made it complicated. You tried to kill her. I tried to scare her into resigning. There's a difference. Not to me, Richard sighed. Then you're as stubborn as she is, which means we have a problem. Lily was staring at Noah, tears streaming down her face. He wanted to run to her, wanted to wrap her in his arms and never let go. But he couldn't, not yet. What do you want? Noah asked. I want you to leave, take your daughter, disappear. Forget any of this happened. And if I don't, then I'll make sure you regret it. I have resources, Carter, connections. I can bury you so deep you'll never see daylight again. You're bluffing. Am I? Noah took a step forward. Yeah, you are. Because if you really had that kind of power, you wouldn't be standing here threatening an 8-year-old girl. You'd have already won. Richard's expression hardened. Don't test me. Or what? You'll set another fire? Hire another hacker? You've been scrambling for months and you still haven't managed to take Elena down. That's not power. That's desperation. Richard's hand tightened on Lily's shoulder. She whimpered, and Noah saw red. He moved without thinking, crossing the distance between them in 3 long strides. Richard tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. Noah grabbed his arm and yanked, hard, pulling him away from Lily. Lily stumbled, and Elena was there, appearing from the other access point, catching her and pulling her to safety. Richard swung at Noah. Missed. Noah didn't swing back. He just held on, using his weight and his reach to keep Richard off balance. They crashed into the wall, then the floor, a tangle of limbs and desperation. Richard was older, but he was strong, fueled by panic and rage. He landed a punch that snapped Noah's head back. Noah tasted blood. Didn't care. He pinned Richard's arms and held him down. "It's over," Noah said, breathing hard. "You're done." Richard thrashed. "Get off me!" Not a chance. Elena had Lily behind her, shielding her. She was on the phone, calling the police, her voice steady and clear. Richard stopped struggling. He lay there, panting, his face twisted with frustration. "This doesn't change anything. The board will side with me. They'll bury this." "No," Elena said. "They won't, because Veronica's already talking, and Marcus is cooperating, and by the time we're done, everyone's going to know exactly what you did." "You can't prove." "We can prove all of it. The fires, the sabotage, the threats, everything." She knelt down so she was at eye level with him. "You lose, Richard. Accept it." The police arrived 10 minutes later. They took Richard into custody without incident, his protests fading as they led him away. Paramedics checked Lily and declared her shaken but unharmed. Noah held her the entire time, refusing to let go. When the police finally left, it was just the 3 of them in the penthouse: Noah, Elena, and Lily. "Is it really over?" Lily asked in a small voice. Noah looked at Elena. She nodded. "Yeah, kiddo," Noah said. "It's really over." The fallout took weeks to settle. Richard Dane was charged with arson, corporate sabotage, and attempted murder. Marcus Trent cooperated with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. Sarah Kovacs was arrested trying to leave the country. The board, faced with undeniable evidence, issued a formal apology to Elena and restructured the company's security protocols. Veronica Lim resigned quietly. No charges were filed against her, but everyone knew she'd been complicit. Elena didn't fight it. Some betrayals, she said, were their own punishment. Meridian survived, barely. The data center fire had been devastating, but enough redundancies were in place that they were able to recover most of their critical systems. It took months and cost millions, but the company rebuilt, and Elena rebuilt with it. She was different after everything. Harder in some ways, but also more open. She stopped pretending to have all the answers, started asking for help, started trusting people. Noah went back to maintenance for exactly 1 week before Elena called him into her office and offered him a new position: Director of Operations. Real authority, real responsibility, a salary that made him laugh out loud when he saw the number. "I don't know anything about operations," Noah said. "You know about keeping things running, about fixing what's broken, about seeing problems before they become disasters." Elena smiled. "That's exactly what we need. What if I screw it up? Then we'll figure it out together." Noah took the job. The custody hearing happened 2 months later. Noah's ex-wife's lawyer tried to argue that his involvement in a criminal investigation made him an unfit parent. But the judge wasn't buying it. She saw a father who'd put his daughter's safety above everything else, who'd fought for what was right, who'd kept his promises. Noah got full custody. Lily cried happy tears for an hour. Life didn't become perfect. It never did. Noah still worked too much sometimes. Lily still asked for pets he refused to buy. Elena still had nightmares about fires and locked doors, but they were all still standing, still fighting, still building something worth protecting. One evening, 6 months after everything ended, Noah was at home helping Lily with her homework when his phone buzzed. A text from Elena. "Dinner tomorrow? My treat. We need to celebrate." "Celebrate what?" Noah typed back. "Meridian just landed the biggest contract in company history. Also, I haven't thanked you properly for saving my life. Multiple times." Noah smiled. "You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. 7 p.m. Bring Lily if you want." Noah looked at his daughter, bent over her math worksheet, her tongue poking out in concentration. She looked up and caught him staring. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just thinking." "About what?" "About how sometimes the best things in life come from the worst situations." Lily wrinkled her nose. "That's deep, Dad." "I have my moments. Can we get pizza for dinner?" Noah laughed. "Yeah, we can get pizza." He thought about texting Elena back, about the dinner invitation, about everything they'd been through together, about the friendship, or whatever it was, that had grown out of chaos and fire and desperate choices made in the dark. Eventually, he typed, 7 p.m. works. Just me. Lily's got a sleepover. Perfect. See you then. Noah set the phone down and went back to helping with homework. Outside, the city hummed with evening traffic. Somewhere across town, Elena was probably still at the office, working late, building something stronger than what had almost been destroyed. And Noah was here, in his small apartment, with his daughter safe beside him, keeping the promise that mattered most. He'd come home, just like he always did. Life wasn't smooth, it wasn't perfect. It was messy and complicated and full of people who made mistakes and had to live with the consequences. But it was real, and it was his, and that was enough. Noah realized something in those quiet months after the dust settled. He'd spent years trying to be invisible because he thought that's what kept people safe. That if he didn't stand out, didn't make waves, didn't matter to anyone outside his tiny circle, then nothing bad could touch the people he loved. But he'd been wrong. The danger had found him anyway. Not because he'd been reckless or careless, but because sometimes the world demanded that you stand up and be counted, that you choose a side, that you matter, whether you wanted to or not. And when that moment came, invisibility wasn't protection. It was just another kind of hiding. Elena had taught him that. She'd built an empire and made herself a target, and refused to apologize for either. She'd been burned and betrayed and nearly killed, and she'd still chosen to fight. Not because she was fearless, but because she knew that some things were worth the risk, worth being seen for. Noah thought about that a lot. About the difference between safety and courage. About how you couldn't always have both. About how the people who mattered most were the ones who saw you, really saw you, and chose to stand beside you anyway. He thought about it when Lily brought home a permission slip for advanced math classes and asked if he thought she was smart enough. When he told her yes, absolutely, and watched her face light up with pride. When he realized she'd spent 8 years watching him hide and learning that hiding was how you survived. He didn't want her to learn that anymore. So he taught her something different. That being scared was okay. That making yourself visible was terrifying but necessary. That sometimes the bravest thing you could do was admit you needed help and then accept it when it was offered. She was 8. She didn't understand all of it yet. But she would. And when she did, Noah wanted her to know that her father had stood his ground when it mattered. That he'd fought for someone who needed fighting for. That he'd kept his promises, even when it cost him everything he thought he wanted. That he'd chosen to be seen. The night of the dinner with Elena, Noah stood in front of his bathroom mirror wearing a tie that didn't come from a gas station and thought about all the ways his life had changed. About the promotion and the salary and the respect he'd earned from people who used to walk past him like he was furniture. But mostly, he thought about the fact that he wasn't invisible anymore. To Elena, to his daughter, to himself. And that maybe, just maybe, that was the whole point. He picked Lily up from her friend's house at 9 the next morning. She was buzzing with energy, talking nonstop about the sleepover and the movies they'd watched and the pancakes they'd had for breakfast. "Did you have fun at your dinner?" she asked as they walked to the car. "Yeah, it was good. Is Miss Voss nice?" "She's complicated, but yeah, she's nice." "Do you like her?" Noah unlocked the car and helped Lily into her seat. "Yeah, I do." Like her? Noah laughed. "Mind your business, kid." "That's a yes." "That's a we're friends and it's none of your concern." Lily grinned. "You're blushing." "I'm not blushing. I'm annoyed." "Same thing." Noah started the car and pulled into traffic. The morning was bright and clear, the kind of day that felt like a promise, like things were going to be okay. And for the first time in years, Noah actually believed it. They stopped for donuts on the way home, sat in the park, and watched dogs chase each other across the grass. Lily asked if they could get a dog now that the turtle and tarantula were off the table, and Noah said maybe. "Really?" Lily's eyes went wide. "Maybe." We'll see. That usually means no. This time it means maybe. Lily threw her arms around him. You're the best dad ever. Noah held her close and thought about all the things he'd survived to get to this moment. The divorce, the custody battle, the years of scraped-together rent and double shifts, the fire and the fear and the impossible choices. All of it had led here, to this park, this morning. This kid who thought he was the best dad ever, even though he'd spent most of her life convinced he was barely good enough. I love you, Lil, he said quietly. I love you too, Dad. They went home. Noah made lunch. Lily did homework. The afternoon passed the way Sundays were supposed to pass, slow and easy and full of the kind of ordinary moments that mattered more than anything else. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Noah sat on his couch and thought about the future, about the job waiting for him Monday morning, about the life he was building that didn't require him to disappear. His phone buzzed. Another text from Elena. Thank you for last night. For everything, really. I don't say it enough, but you changed my life. Noah stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back, you changed mine too, for the better. A pause. Then, good. You deserve better. So do you. Another pause. Longer this time. Maybe we both finally got it. Noah smiled. Set the phone down. Looked around his small, cramped apartment that somehow felt bigger than it used to. Felt like home in a way it hadn't before. He thought about promises kept and battles won and the strange, unexpected ways people found each other in the chaos. About how sometimes the worst moments led to the best outcomes, and how you couldn't have one without surviving the other. He thought about being seen, about being known, about standing in the light instead of the shadows, and discovering that the world didn't end when you stopped hiding. And he thought about tomorrow, about going to work in a building he knew inside and out, working alongside a woman who trusted him, building something that mattered. About coming home to his daughter and keeping the promise that started all of this. About being enough. Finally. Completely. Without question. Noah Carter had spent 32 years learning how to be invisible. It had taken one impossible month to learn how to be seen, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. Outside, the city hummed with 10 million stories. People fighting their own battles, making their own choices, learning their own lessons about courage and fear and what it meant to show up when it mattered. Noah's story was just one of them, small in the grand scheme, unremarkable to anyone who didn't live it, but it was his, and it was real, and it was finally, beautifully, enough. He turned off the lights and went to bed, knowing that when morning came, he'd wake up and do it all again. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. And that made all the difference.